In January 2013, a young traveler checked into a hotel with a dark history, and within days, she would vanish without a trace. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to StoryPulse, where every day we uncover real stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. It started like any other solo adventure. At just 21 years old, Elisa Lam was curious, thoughtful, and full of quiet excitement about the world. A student from Canada, she had decided to take a trip down the West Coast, documenting her journey through photos, thoughts, and reflections online. Her destination this time, Los Angeles, a city known for dreams, stories, and second chances, but also a city with shadows. Elisa arrived in late January and checked into the historic Cecil Hotel, a place that, on the surface, seemed affordable and convenient for travelers. From the outside, it looked like any other old downtown building, but behind its walls, the hotel carried a reputation that many didn't fully understand. Still, Elisa didn't seem worried. In fact, she seemed happy. She posted regularly, sharing glimpses of bookstores she visited and little notes. Her writing felt personal, almost poetic at times. She talked about growth, about finding herself, about stepping outside her comfort zone. To anyone following her story, everything looked normal, maybe even perfect. But sometimes the most unsettling stories don't begin with fear. They begin with silence. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Days passed, and Elisa continued exploring the city. But inside the hotel, things weren't going as smoothly as they appeared online. Other guests began to notice something. There were quiet complaints, whispers. Elisa's behavior, they said, was unusual. Not dangerous, not aggressive, just strange. Enough that hotel staff eventually decided to move her to a different room. It was a small detail at the time, easy to ignore. But later, it would become one of the first warning signs that something wasn't right. And yet, even then, Elisa continued to share pieces of her journey. Her posts didn't suddenly turn dark. There were no clear signs of fear, no obvious distress, just the same reflective tone. A young traveler navigating life, one experience at a time, until suddenly, everything stopped. No new posts, no updates, no messages. At first, it didn't raise alarms. After all, travelers disconnect all the time. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she lost internet access. Maybe she just wanted a break. But as hours turned into days, the silence began to feel different, heavier, more deliberate. Back in Canada, her family started to worry. Elisa wasn't the kind of person to disappear without saying something. She was consistent, thoughtful, present, and now she was gone. No calls, no texts, no trace. Inside the Cecil Hotel, life went on as usual. Guests checked in and out. Staff followed their routines. The city outside kept moving, loud and alive. But somewhere within that building, a story was unfolding, quietly, unnoticed. And whatever had caused Elisa to go silent was only just beginning, because the next thing discovered wouldn't just raise questions, it would disturb the entire world. But what happened next would turn a simple missing person case into one of the most disturbing real mysteries ever recorded. Inside the Cecil Hotel, the days passed quietly. Too quietly, by now. Elisa Lam had already been moved to a different room. Other guests had complained about her behavior, describing it as unusual, unpredictable, but not necessarily threatening. Still, something felt off. No one could quite explain it. And sometimes it's the things people can't explain that matter the most. At first, her actions didn't seem alarming enough to trigger serious concern. Hotels see all kinds of guests: tired travelers, stressed individuals, people acting a little differently than usual. It's easy to overlook small signs, but in hindsight, those small signs began to form a pattern no one recognized in time. Then came the moment that would change everything. At some point during her stay, Elisa entered one of the hotel elevators, a simple, enclosed space that should have been uneventful. But what happened inside was anything but normal. Captured by a security camera, the footage shows Elisa stepping into the elevator alone. She presses multiple buttons, not just one floor, but several, as if unsure where she wants to go. Then she waits. The doors don't close. Seconds pass. Nothing happens. And that's when her behavior changes. She steps closer to the door, then suddenly leans out into the hallway, peeking around the corner as if she's checking if someone is there or something. Her movements become erratic, unpredictable. She quickly steps back inside, pressing more buttons, all of them, one after another, in a hurried, almost frantic way. But still, the elevator doesn't move. It just stays there, open, waiting, as if frozen in time. Then Elisa does something even stranger. She steps out again, but this time she presses herself against the wall beside the elevator, almost hiding it. Her body language shifts. It's tense, alert, like someone trying not to be seen. Her hands begin to move, slowly at first, then more expressively. She gestures into the empty hallway, strange, deliberate movements, as if she's communicating with someone who isn't visible, or reacting to something we can't see. Her fingers stretch and twist in unnatural patterns. Her arms rise and fall in a rhythm that doesn't match panic, but doesn't feel calm either. It's something else. Something difficult to describe. Then, just as suddenly as it started, she walks away, out of the frame, gone. And only then the elevator doors finally close. When this footage was later released, it spread across the internet like wildfire. Millions watched it, analyzed it, replayed it over and over again, trying to understand what they were seeing. Was she scared? Was someone there with her, just out of sight? Or was this something happening entirely within her own mind? The video didn't answer questions. It created more of them. And the most chilling part, this was the last time Elisa Lam was ever seen alive. No one saw where she went after that. No cameras captured her next steps. No witnesses came forward with clear answers. Just that elevator. That moment. That silence. But as disturbing as the footage was, it was only the beginning. Because soon, Elisa wouldn't just be acting strangely. She would completely disappear, and what investigators uncovered next would make this case impossible to forget. But what they discovered next didn't bring answers. It deepened the mystery. By early February 2013, something was very wrong. Elisa Lam hadn't just gone quiet online anymore. She had completely vanished. No sightings, no messages, no trace. Back in Canada, her family knew this wasn't normal. Elisa was known for staying in touch. Even during her solo travels, she regularly updated her blog and checked in with loved ones. But now, there was nothing. And silence like that doesn't go unnoticed forever. Her family reported her missing, and soon the LAPD launched an official investigation across Los Angeles. At first, it followed the usual pattern. Officers retraced her steps, visiting places she had mentioned and asking questions. They returned to the Cecil Hotel, hoping to find something, anything that could explain where she went. Her room was one of the first places they searched. What they found was unsettling in its own quiet way, but her belongings were still there. Clothes, personal items, everything left behind as if she had planned to return. There were no signs of struggle, no indication that she packed up and left voluntarily, no clear evidence of forced entry. It was as if she had simply stepped out and never came back. Investigators widened the search. They checked hallways, stairwells, emergency exits, and even the rooftop. Nothing. Search dogs were brought in, trained to detect even the faintest human scent. They traced her path through the hotel, but then, suddenly, the trail stopped cold, as if she had vanished into thin air. Outside, the streets of Los Angeles were vast and unforgiving. Thousands of people moved through the city every hour. If Elisa had left the hotel, she could have gone anywhere, but there were no confirmed sightings or credible leads. Then came a decision that would change everything. Authorities released the elevator footage to the public. The video didn't just spread, it exploded. Millions of people began watching the final moments of Elisa Lam. People slowed it down, zoomed in, and analyzed every movement, every shadow, and every second of silence. Some believed she was being followed, that someone stood just outside the camera's view. Others thought she was hiding. Then something changed. Inside the very walls of the hotel, guests began to notice something strange, something subtle at first, but impossible to ignore. What they were about to discover would shock the entire world. But what they discovered next wasn't found in a hallway or a room or even on camera. It was hidden somewhere no one thought to look. Days after the disappearance of Elisa Lam, life inside the Cecil Hotel seemed to return to normal, at least on the surface. Guests checked in. Staff followed their routines. The city outside continued its endless rhythm, but then something started to feel wrong. It began with small complaints. Guests mentioned that the water pressure in their rooms wasn't what it should be. Showers trickled instead of flowing. Faucets sputtered unpredictably. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. But then the complaints changed. The water itself didn't seem right. Some guests reported an unusual taste. Others noticed a strange discoloration. A few described an odor that was difficult to ignore. Still, no one connected it to anything serious. Not yet. As the days passed, the complaints became more frequent, more urgent. What started as inconvenience turned into concern, and eventually maintenance was called. A hotel worker was sent to investigate the problem to find out what was affecting the water supply. The source, they believed, was above it. So they made their way to the rooftop, a place most guests never see, a place that, until now, held no obvious answers. On top of the hotel sat several large water tanks, heavy metal containers that stored water for the entire building. They were closed, secured, unremarkable. At least. That's how they appeared. The worker approached one of the tanks, climbed up, and opened the lid. What they found inside would stop the world. Inside that water tank was the body of Elisa Lam. The discovery was immediate, shocking, impossible to process. The same young woman who had vanished without a trace had been there all along. Hidden above the hotel, out of sight, and somehow completely unnoticed. News spread quickly, from local reports to international headlines. This wasn't just a disappearance anymore. It was something far more disturbing, because finding her didn't bring closure. It raised questions. How did she get there? The rooftop wasn't easily accessible. Doors were reportedly locked. Some exits required keys or security codes. There were even alarms in place. And yet, somehow, she made it to the top. Then there was the tank itself. Heavy, elevated, not something easily climbed into. And perhaps the most unsettling detail of all, when she was discovered, the lid of the tank was closed. Think about that. If she had entered the tank herself, how was it sealed again? If someone else was involved, how did they get in and out without being seen, without leaving a trace? Investigators now faced a mystery that felt almost impossible, because every answer led to another question. Every explanation created another gap, and nothing seemed to fully make sense. Inside Los Angeles, the case had taken a dark and unexpected turn, and around the world, people began to realize something chilling. The footage, the behavior, the disappearance, it was all connected. But how? Because the truth was, finding Elisa Lam didn't solve the mystery. It only made it deeper, more unsettling, more impossible to ignore. And as investigators began to piece together what might have happened, they were faced with one terrifying reality. This case didn't follow logic. It defied it. But the deeper investigators looked, the less anything made sense. The discovery of Elisa Lam inside the rooftop water tank should have brought clarity. Instead, it created a maze of questions. Questions that, even today, don't have clean answers. And yet, no alarm had been reported. No staff member recalled an alert. No clear record showed how Elisa reached the roof. Then came the physical challenge. Even if she had made it to the rooftop, the water tanks themselves were not easy to access. They were large industrial containers elevated, with no simple staircase leading up. Climbing onto one would require effort, balance, and intent. And once on top, opening the lid wouldn't have been effortless either. These lids were heavy, not something you casually lift without purpose. But the most haunting question of all remained. How did the lid end up closed? When the maintenance worker discovered Elisa, the tank was sealed. If she had climbed in on her own, how did it shut behind her? If someone else was involved? Where were the signs? There were no clear indications of a struggle. No obvious evidence pointing to another person being there. It was as if the scene had been left, perfectly undisturbed. Investigators also faced inconsistencies in timelines. Exactly when Elisa reached the rooftop was unclear. Investigators revisited it again and again, trying to match her behavior with what might have happened afterward. Was she trying to escape someone? Was she disoriented? Was she reacting to something unseen? Or was the answer something far more internal? The official findings began to lean toward one explanation. A tragic accident, possibly influenced by mental health factors. A moment of confusion, a series of decisions that led her somewhere she couldn't escape. It was a conclusion grounded in logic, in probability. But for many people, it didn't feel complete, because too many details didn't align perfectly. Too many questions remained unanswered. Why the elevator behavior? Why the lack of clear access evidence? Why the closed lid? Why did everything about this case feel just slightly out of place? Public doubt began to grow. Online discussions turned into deep investigations of their own. People compared reports, analyzed building layouts, Inside Los Angeles, the case was being processed, documented, and explained. But outside, across the world, a different kind of investigation was unfolding. One driven not by procedure, but by curiosity, by unease, by the feeling that something about this story didn't fully add up. Because sometimes the most unsettling mysteries aren't the ones with no answers. They're the ones with answers that don't feel right. And as more people began to dig deeper, they uncovered something unexpected. Something that would take this case beyond logic, beyond evidence, and into a world of theories that blurred the line between reality and imagination, because what came next would make this story even harder to explain. But what people uncovered next didn't just question the case, it transformed it into one of the internet's most haunting real mysteries. By now, the official explanation surrounding Elisa Lam had been shared: a tragic accident. A young traveler, possibly disoriented, somehow finding her way to the rooftop. For investigators, it was the most logical conclusion. But for the public, it wasn't enough. Because something about this story didn't sit right. And when people don't feel satisfied with answers, they start searching for their own online forums lit up. Discussion threads stretched for pages, to videos, analyzing every second of the elevator footage gained millions of views. People began connecting details that no one initially thought were related. The first theory was grounded in reality, a psychological explanation. Some believed Elisa may have been experiencing a mental health episode, confusion or disorientation. Her movements in the elevator, the way she reacted to empty space, the urgency in her gestures. To some, it suggested she was reacting to something internal, but others weren't convinced, because even if her behavior could be explained, the logistics still couldn't. Then came the darker theories. Some believed there was another person involved, someone just outside the camera's frame, someone she was hiding from. Someone who never appeared. People pointed to the way she stepped in and out of the elevator, the way she pressed against the wall, looking down the hallway as if watching someone move. But no second figure was ever confirmed. No shadow, no reflection, nothing concrete. And then the theories took an even stranger turn. The history of the Cecil Hotel resurfaced. Long before Elisa's stay, the hotel had built a reputation, one tied to unsettling stories and unexplained events. Over the years, it had quietly become known as a place where strange things happened. Some began to wonder, was Elisa's case just another chapter? Then came the coincidences, eerie parallels between Elisa's story and elements from films and urban legends, names and themes that seemed to mirror her experience. Individually, they meant nothing, but together, they created a pattern. The footage felt wrong, not just mysterious, but unsettling on a deeper level, as if something about it didn't belong in the normal world. Still, no theory could fully explain everything. Each explanation left another piece untouched. And that's what made this case different. It wasn't just unsolved. It was unresolved. The story of Elisa Lam refused to feel complete. And maybe that's why, even years later, people are still watching that elevator footage, still asking questions, still searching for the truth. Because the truth is, some mysteries don't end when the case is closed. They linger, they echo, they stay with us. And this one still does. But even after the case was closed, the story refused to end. In the months following the discovery, officials finalized their investigation. The conclusion was accidental drowning, no evidence of foul play, and no confirmed involvement of another person. It was a tragic sequence of events. Likely influenced by disorientation, she reached a place she couldn't escape. On paper, it made sense and provided the necessary closure for the file. But outside official reports, something very different was happening. For millions around the world, this case didn't feel finished. It felt incomplete. The elevator footage continued to spread, dissected and analyzed countless times. Each viewing brought new interpretations, new questions, and new theories. And with every revisit, the same feeling returned: unease. There was something about those final moments that simply didn't fade with time. The Cecil Hotel itself became a symbol of the mystery. Its name became inseparable from Elisa's case, adding to the atmosphere and the uncertainty. Years later, people still visit and connect it to something larger than one event. And then there's Elisa, a young woman exploring the world. Her blog posts and words remain a reminder of who she was beyond the mystery. Not just a headline, but a real person. Maybe that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about what happened, it's about what we still cannot explain. Why did the elevator behave the way it did? What was she reacting to? How did every piece fall into place, yet feel incomplete? Maybe some stories aren't meant to be fully understood. The real mystery is why, even now, this story refuses to let go. If everything has been explained, then why does it still feel like something is missing? A mystery blurring the line between explanation and uncertainty.